The night was dark, and the old auction barn was filled with harsh whispers and judgmental stares. Emma stood on the wooden platform, her hands folded tightly against her worn dress, her face pale under the lantern light. She wasn't being sold like cattle, yet the way people looked at her made it feel no different. "She's too big," someone muttered from the crowd. "Won't last a season workin' on a ranch. Not fit for a wife. She'll eat more than she's worth." Every word sliced her deeper. Her step-uncle, the man who brought her here, just shrugged at the insults. For him, Emma was a burden, an extra mouth he didn't want to feed after her parents passed. He'd dragged her into town, stood her in front of strangers, and told them she'd make a decent house girl for the right price. Emma kept her eyes low, heart pounding, praying someone, anyone, might see her differently. But no one raised a hand. Not one offer. Until the doors swung open. A tall cowboy stepped inside, his boots heavy on the dirt floor, spurs jingling softly. Broad shoulders filled his shirt, his hat dipped low over sharp, steady eyes. He looked like a man who'd spent his life under the sun, strong and unshaken. The whispers turned into silence as he moved closer, his gaze fixed on Emma. "That one," he said, his voice deep and sure. Her uncle perked up, eager to make a quick deal. "You'll take her. She's strong enough to clean, but..." The cowboy ignored him. He walked right up to Emma, and for the first time that night, she lifted her head. Their eyes met, his filled with a strange gentleness she hadn't seen in years. He studied her as if all those cruel words from the crowd meant nothing. "You're just right for my arms," he said quietly, almost like a vow. Emma froze, breath catching. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not with kindness, not with warmth. The man introduced himself as Caleb Hart, a rancher with more land than he could manage alone. But instead of treating Emma like hired help, he offered his hand. Not just a place to stay, but a chance to be seen, to belong. Her uncle accepted the money, eager to be rid of her, and before she could think, Caleb led her out into the cool night air. On the ride back to his ranch, Emma sat nervously on the wagon bench beside him. She expected questions, maybe even demands. Instead, Caleb just let the silence stretch comfortably between them, only breaking it once to say, "Don't listen to what they said back there. Size don't matter to me. What matters is heart." At his ranch, she found a place unlike any she'd known. Rolling pastures, a warm kitchen, the smell of horses and hay instead of bitterness and dust. Caleb's men respected him deeply, and soon, they respected her too, because he made it clear, Emma wasn't someone to mock. She was someone to honor. The days turned into weeks. Emma worked in the garden, cooked meals, and even helped mend fences alongside Caleb. He never once treated her like she was too much. Instead, he looked at her like she was exactly enough. One evening, after a long day's work, Caleb brought her to the porch. The sun painted the sky in streaks of gold and purple, and for the first time in years, Emma felt peace settle in her chest. "You know," Caleb said, leaning against the railing, "when I saw you in that barn, you looked like a bird with clipped wings. But I knew I could help you fly again." Emma's eyes stung with tears. "Why me? Why would you choose me when you could have anyone else?" Caleb turned toward her fully, his gaze steady. "Because I don't want anyone else. I don't want perfect. I don't want small. I want strong. I want kind. I want you." In that moment, Emma realized she hadn't been bought, she had been chosen. And maybe, just maybe, she could choose him back. From that day forward, Emma was no longer the girl who had been sold for being too big. She became the woman who was just right, for the cowboy who saw her worth when no one else did. And in his arms, she finally found a home.